Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 183 of Lonely Gods. I'm your host, David, and I'm joined here, as always, by Kate.
Oh, hi, Dave.
Hi, Kate. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm pretty good. I ate too much dinner and I feel really full. I had like chicken skewers and potatoes and stuff. So
Nice.
it was good, but now I feel bloated because I had NASCAR snacks earlier in the day, which I haven't really recovered from. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Uh, John and I are now up to about halfway through Keys of Marinus, and I like it a lot less this time around. I'm proud of John. He sat through all 7 reconstructions for Marco Polo.
Oh, wow.
He's a good boy, and
He is a
he
good
actually says he
boy.
likes that more than the animations. Um,
Interesting.
there are plenty of people who think the animations just kind of suck and would prefer
Well, to
actual
be
stills and stuff.
to
So,
be fair, they do kind of suck.
yeah, I agree, but I prefer at least some kind of motion.
Especially, isn't that first animation chronologically for the story that weird one where it was like they have like the mapped faces and
And the
it's all.
hyperactive cutting and
Yeah, it's really
yeah,
weird and
yes,
animated
it is.
incredibly awkwardly. Yeah.
We haven't hit that yet, but yeah, Keys of Marinus.
Wow.
I don't know. The first time we saw it, I really liked it, and this time around, I'm kind of not too keen on it. But we
I
did see the
remember.
episode with that fucking that statue trap that's like an evil idol, but it's just a guy's arms sticking out of it to trap people.
Yes.
I forgot
Well,
about that fucking thing.
Keys of Marinus was pretty meandering from what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, but at the same time, I do like the novelty of sort of a different setting and stuff every episode. Because I did just sit through 7 episodes of Ancient China, which is a great, by the way. Marco Polo is fantastic, but
Marco Polo is really good.
it's really good and frustrating too. Because like, out of all the missing episodes, like that one was it's like the most widely sold. There's a lot of prints in circulation. Statistically, it is the most likely one that we should find, and yet all of it is missing somehow. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it'll probably give it 10 more years, and then we'll be able to very cheaply reconstruct stuff visually with special effects, and we'll be able to reconstruct all these old episodes.
I mean, yeah, probably. The BBC does seem keen on continuing the animations, so
And then we can get rid of the awful animations and have something better.
I mean the animations are hit and miss. Like a lot of the Trout and Cybermen ones and stuff, like those are actually pretty good. It's just I think part of the issue with the animations was number one, they kept flitting around to different studios. And so,
Yeah, so
you know,
it's
a lot
not
of the studios would
consistent.
only do, yeah, it wasn't consistent. A lot of the studios would only do 1 or 2, so they didn't really find a groove with it before it was yanked away to somebody else. And the other problem with that is that, of course, um, I mean, starting with Power of the Daleks, when it became like the standalone release, because they'd already released everything else, the back when Classic Doctor Who a few years ago was still an ongoing DVD release schedule. Um, the BBC did not provide additional budget to have the animations done. They had to do that animation on the same budget they would have for any other DVD release for like extras and stuff, right? So
Oh, Jesus.
it was, yeah, it was really not an easy thing to do, which is one of the reasons they limited the animations to stories that were only missing 2 episodes. But now that the animation is the feature, like with Power, I guess they're willing to spend a little more on it. So I'm hoping that they can. Not that Power is actually not one of the better animations, I thought, but if they can stick with the same studio and they can develop things and get better at it, it'll improve, I hope.
One day I'll watch the copy of that I bought.
Well, I mean, Power is a great story, and some cruddy animation isn't going to change that. So,
That's true. So, is there any Doctor Who news?
um, not really? Question mark. I don't think so. I mean, the only really big announcement that I saw was that there's going to be another box set with Lucy Miller and the Eighth Doctor, which is not somebody you've met before. It's exciting to anyone who likes the Eighth Doctor. She's a very popular companion. But for the purposes of this podcast, not big news because we haven't got to her yet. The other thing is that the discounted audio of the month for September from Big Finish is the Benny box set Epoch. Box sets like never go on sale this cheap. Right now it's $4.99, and
that is really cheap.
It's I think it's a 4-episode box set. So if you want some Benny, go to it. It's actually, there's some Benny. It's a good jumping on point as well. This is the first time when they moved from standalone seasons to box sets, or like individual CD releases. So they did make it, accessible if you didn't know Benny already. So it's a good deal. But I already have it. I probably paid like 4 times as much because I'm an idiot. That's how it goes.
I played a bunch of the Doctor Who pinball games.
Cool.
Yeah, they're nothing to write home about. They're fine. The old one's great. The digital one's okay.
Ooh, Perry, put your balls in my score hole.
I was trying to figure out all of the companions on it because the art is not great.
Oh, is it new series or classic or both?
Classic. Or? It's because it was made before they came back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the original one, and then they made a modern one for the new series.
Well, I think the only TV companions you haven't met yet is Mel and Ace. So,
well, no, I'm more
only 2 of them.
That the art, that the art is bad, and I'm trying to figure out who that is supposed to be. Not like I don't know who this is.
Right.
It's weird art. It's like it looks like 70s art.
Well, it very well could be.
I'll look up the date. I don't think it is, but anyway.
Right. Speaking of the 70s.
Yes. Nope, it was 1992.
Oh, all right. So that's pre-McGann even.
Yeah, there's a big old, the star of the thing is the Master.
Oh.
Which is cool. I just sent you a picture.
He's
got his arm folded at the bottom near the flippers. It's great.
Okay, let's see if I can figure out who the fuck this is supposed to be. Zoom in real far. Well, I see Pertwee.
Yeah. Oh, I recognize all the doctors.
Yeah.
You might
I think
want
it's Jamie and Zoe with Troughton over there.
But Zoe's dressed, I think so too, but Zoe looks very weirdly dressed. She's not.
It might be Victoria then.
You should you probably should find a better picture than that, but
yeah, whatever. I don't actually care. So
yeah, no. But it's cool. It's fun. It's a fun table. The part in the back where you can see the Master on that rises up and stuff. It's neat.
Cool. That looks like. I was gonna say it looks like the Delgado Master, but it could very well be Anthony Ainley. They kind of didn't really change up his look very much.
No, but you see what I mean by it's very 70s looking.
Yeah. It looks like the cover of novelizations that you'd find.
Oh, really? Okay.
Kind of, yeah. It's that same sort of style.
But yeah, it's a fun table. The modern one that's digital only is okay. It's weird. For a digital only table, I would expect more things in it. Because you can do so much more.
Yeah.
Very simple. Anyway.
Right.
Doctor Who audios. Starting out this week, we have the finale to our season of the 4th Doctor adventures, The Age of Sutekh. Of course, last time we left off on a cliffhanger where Sutekh had taken control of the city. And it is now up to the Doctor and Leela and the army of vagrants to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I guess the Doctor teamed up with a police guy as well. I think I probably forgot to mention that last time around because I didn't really remember.
It's not super important.
No, he mostly acts as a getaway driver.
Yeah,
more than anything else. But
he then also ends up teaming up with is she the CEO or whatever?
Yeah, the head honcho of the like internet thing that's possessed
Yeah.
by Sutekh.
Yes.
So yeah, Sutekh's like psychic powers have transformed the city into like this like a replica of the Osiren city, I guess, and mummy robots because we have to have those, I guess. And it wasn't very interesting.
I liked it.
It was boring. I think this two-parter more than all of the other episodes in the season has fallen into that Fourth Doctor rut for me, where it's like this is the kind of thing that we would have seen a million times on TV. There's nothing different. The characterization, for the most part, isn't anything special. It doesn't do anything new or different with the format. And coming after such a relatively strong run of stories in the other box set and you know the rest of this one, it was just kind of I don't know, it's humdrum and
I thought it was fun. I liked when reality gets all weird because Sutekh's.
yeah, but the thing is reality didn't get all weird though. It was just kind of overlaid with other things. Like it wasn't
It's
there was
still.
no ambiguity and like twisted nature to it. It was just like this is just a new coat of paint essentially.
I know, man. I thought it was fun. Yeah, that's true, but it was just a fun adventure. I thought I enjoyed it a lot more than you did. I liked the
Well, sure,
characters.
but
I liked all the weird
I would
psychic
say that
mind battles.
mind battles. Well, I mean, I would say that like as sick as I am of this kind of thing from this series, within this season, this is really the only one like that. Um, so I can't say that like I was worried that this would be the case, but I can't say that I'm surprised or even really all that upset that the finale was basically a Nick Briggs style nostalgia fest. Um, I don't know. After such an experimental season and doing so many different things, I guess I was hoping for something a little bit more meaty. Um, but I don't think it's bad. I just kind of was disinterested in it because it wasn't unique in any way, I guess. Um, it especially picked me off because the thing that interested me the most in the first half was Leela's insistence that they have to help all the hobos, and the doctor saying like that economics is a lot more complex than fighting monsters. We can't really stop and fix the social structure of everywhere we go, and Leela and being mad at him, not understanding that. And in this story it's pretty much glossed over with Leela being like, I can't stay mad at you, and it's like, oh, okay. we have to ditch all that in favor of running around instead.
I mean, I thought it was better than that. Like they have a discussion there at the end, and because of like literally, I mean, the doctor even says like that would be literally all he would ever do, and so you have to let people work it out for themselves.
I feel okay. You know what? Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like most of that was in part one, and then it kind of just fizzled out in this
No,
one.
it's like
But
the last thing they talk about at the end of the story.
I swear to God, it was mostly just like, you're frustrating because I can't stay mad at you and blah blah blah, and it was kind of spackled over. I mean, even if it was the last discussion, it definitely wasn't as much of a through line as I had hoped it would be.
Well,
But
whatever.
and Sutekh himself, like, again, I'm not particularly attached to Sutekh as a villain. I mean, he's the Pyramids of Mars is great, but Sutekh himself is whatever. And in this story, he's not very threatening. He's not very commanding. He spends most of his time in a weakened state, usually whining at people, and just kind of, bullying one person. And it's not really a very impressive outing for somebody who's purported to be an evil overlord. And, just kind of not threatening. Not a huge threat. So yeah, because I mean he's in a weakened state. He needs the power of belief or whatever, but like he can't even like fully convert the illusion or whatever because he's too weak and he needs sacrifices and blah 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 blah. And it doesn't really, I don't know. We never really see Sutekh in anywhere near like full power, and it's in Pyramids of Mars. You get the sensation that Sutekh is somebody who could kill you by fucking looking at you. In this episode, Leela's taunting him and running around on a rooftop with him, and it's just, I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
All right, fine. So next up, we're switching back to our Fifth Doctor monthly ranges. And first up, all of these, every single one of our stories this week started with the. Did you notice that?
No, because when I write down the names of stories, I tend to admit the or a.
Oh, I do it when I write them for the episode title because it doesn't fit then. But next up, we have the Council of Nicaea.
Yes, and I said Nicaea last week, even though I knew that was wrong, looked up how it was actually pronounced, and still said Nicaea because I'm a fucking idiot. I was so mad at myself as soon as I heard them say that in the episode. I'm like, I knew that I fucked up. I took steps to avoid fucking up and did it anyway. Oh, man. So, yes, Nicaea.
Are you ready to return to a true historical, Kate?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got one of these in a while.
Not just a true historical, but, I mean, church councils, this is like fucking patrician shit. This is great.
This is great. I mean, I did actually really like this story.
Yes.
I liked pretty much everything this week.
Good.
No, there's no pretty much. I did like everything this week. I'm not a little downer like you about Sutekh, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm probably coming off more negative than I meant it. Like, I do think Sutekh, if we can back up for a second, I think it's okay. I probably should have expected a bit of fluff for our season finale, but,
It's of higher quality than most of the Fourth Doctor adventures, but it's not as good as the rest of the season because the season has been unusually good.
Yeah, and even like I think the second box set was weaker. But even the other two stories in it, like Shadow of London and Bad Penny, both did like different stuff, even if it wasn't always the best stuff. It was at least out of the ordinary, and then Sutekh was extremely ordinary. But anyway, Nicaea.
Yeah. So Nicaea. So yeah. So the Doctor, Perry, and Aramem land in. They're in Nicaea, right?
Yes, they're in Nicaea during the reign of Constantine, Emperor Constantine. So basically, the historical background to this is that it's a time of strife in the Christian Church, and basically, Arius is a presbyter, and he has this idea that Jesus was created by God and is not like part of God because God is indivisible, and the bishops in the church are mad because they say, well, that's taking away Christ's divinity, and so there's a split over people on one camp, people in the other. There's starting to be like street brawls over it, and Constantine basically has said, like, enough's fucking enough. Like, the church needs to be unified, so we're going to make this council, hash it all out, and one way or the other, this shit stops, like, right the fuck now, because I'm sick of it. And so the Doctor is a big fan of church councils, apparently. And so he and his buddies have come back to basically just kind of take it in as spectators. But unfortunately, they get caught up in one of these aforementioned street brawls. And Perry and Aramem fall in with Arius and his followers. And Aramem becomes quite upset that Arius, because he's not a bishop, is actually not invited to the council, so he won't even get to speak on his own behalf. She finds that really unjust, promises to stick up for him and try and do something. Meanwhile, the Doctor has been dragged off by the fucking centurions and thrown in the clink. And he worms his way into Constantine's good graces by saying that he'd kind of like pass him information and word on the street in exchange for getting the Doctor and pals into the council to watch, but Aramem being incredibly pissed off and wanting to change history because the Doctor knows that Arius's faction is excommunicated and all that, tells her to drop it. She won't. And actually, she has this big outburst during the council, telling everybody to basically go fuck themselves, and gets ejected. And yeah, Peter Davison is a pretty mad boy after that. So it's really the crux of the conflict is twofold. Is it's between the two between Arius's faction and basically Constantine's authority in trying to quell the dissent, and also the character conflict between Aramem and the Doctor, because she's not having any of this drop it business.
Not only that, but this is a really fun historical setting. Like, I don't usually... Religion usually upsets me, but it worked here.
Upsets you?
Just, it's usually frustrating, especially with a historical story.
How so?
Because especially with Doctor Who, the plots end up revolving around just close-mindedness and bigotry, maybe is the word I'm looking for. But this one is so much more about these two. It's about ideologies. It's not about the actual religion. In fact, there's multiple times where they bring up, like, you guys are basically arguing fine points on something. You agree on everything else. Like, why is this so intense?
Really, what they should do is make a podcast. It's worked for us. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I like about this is that, I mean, you know, I'm not a Christian, and neither is Aramem, but, you know, her stake in it is that, you know, she feels that injustice is being done. It's not so much that she disagrees, she, you know, subscribes to one belief or the other. And really the whole story is that way. It's not a soapbox where it's like, this side is right and the other one is bad, and that's a tragedy, or, you know, religion is right and disbelief is wrong, or that. It's more concerned, it's less concerned, like you say, with religion in itself, and more concerned with the ideology and the politics surrounding the religious issue that are causing so many problems for Constantine.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, and even Constantine himself says that, like, look, I don't really care who comes out on top at this. I don't have a horse in this race. I just want people to stop beating the shit out of each other in the streets, because I'm getting fucking tired of it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, yeah, religion is always a touchy subject, and I definitely applaud this episode for tackling this kind of subject matter and not at all making an issue out of it. You know, everything is handled with appropriate respect. Nothing's rammed down your throat, and the focus of the story is just good, solid writing and good characters. And
it's just a really interesting and captivating story. Like, I couldn't look. I mean, it's audio, but I couldn't look away.
Well, I mean, I have the album art on my big iPad screen, so I'm looking at it and I just stare at it.
Yeah, but if you look away, you don't miss anything.
Well, there might be little. I don't know. I mean, the album art is just a big cross with Aramem in front of it. So I mean, but I mean, yeah. Speaking of Aramem, she has definitely been such an asset to these audios, even on the ones that weren't very good, because her perspective is just so interesting. Where she, you know, she's fighting the Doctor quite vociferously on, you know, sticking up for Arius, and, you know, she's using that argument of, well, you know, you change this and you change that, but we can't change what you say so, and basically fuck you. And you know, she makes a good point that, like, you know, this what is history, because this is my future, and yeah, I'm going to do what I think is right. I mean, to the point where the Doctor threatens to leave her in Nicaea, and she's like, okay, fine, do it. Like, she's incredibly pissed off with the Doctor, and he's incredibly pissed off with her for the most of the story. And there's poor Perry stuck in the middle trying to mediate between the two of them, really. And I think Perry Guns end up getting it from both of them. But you know, but much like the religious issue, like it's not handled in a way that makes you pissed off at any of these characters for being stupid. It's just an unfortunate conflict in the way they see things.
Yeah.
But done very well. And again, like it's portrayed so strongly that I can't think of another time where I've seen the Doctor and the companions like this pissed at each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good argument too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not you don't feel like we understand where the Doctor is coming, and even Aramem ends up understanding in the end.
Yes.
But
I mean, if Aramem has a fault, it's that she's jumping the gun a bit without enough information.
Yeah.
But
it's really well written. It feels very natural.
Yes. And I really liked the conclusion to this story as well. Because basically Aramem has kind of organized a demonstration of Arius's supporters marching up to Constantine's palace, not to attack, but just to show how many of his subjects agree with Arius and that they feel like they're not being heard. And, you know, both on Aramem's side with Arius's followers and the Doctor's side with Constantine, both of them convinced their respective factions not to fight each other, to hear each other out. You know, Constantine, despite some finagling from the bishops trying to interfere with things, you know, doesn't sick the Legion on them, comes out and talks to them. And, you know, even though Arius is still going to be on the losing side here, Aramem feels like she's satisfied with that. She got him a fair hearing. She let him have his day.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I don't know, it was an interesting ending because Doctor Who, I think, tends to sort of end up with a pile of corpses usually.
Well, yeah, and it's true, and it works, but it feels so natural too for that conclusion, like because and especially I know this is a historical, but usually even in the historical, usually when we're dealing with this type of character, even Constantine's not evil or anything in this story, but when you're dealing with this type of leader, there tends to be more, I guess, cartoonish villainy is too intense of a description, but you know what I mean. It tends to do that. They come out that way for the sake of a more dramatic story, where they dialed it back.
Somebody's got to be the bad guy, you know?
Yeah, and I think it worked out exceptionally well. And again, I just wanted to bring up the scene where they're in the council chambers, and Aramem speaks out. And it was just one of those ones I was like, oh no.
Very loudly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when I heard that, I was like, oh God, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it's just one of those, like, not understanding the time and the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another part of it. It's not that the Doctor is heartless or that Aramem is stupid. It's just that she doesn't have the experience and the understanding with this sort of thing that he does.
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, and I mean, I was really impressed with the way that Constantine was portrayed in this because, you know, like you said, he's not made into an outright villain. There are villainous things about him, certainly. You know, the Doctor is not shy about telling Perry and Aramem that, you know, Constantine can do brutal things. He's often tendency is to solve problems by being ruthless or, you know, using the legionaries if he has to, but at the same time, it's like it is clear like he wants fighting to stop. He doesn't want to have to fucking massacre a bunch of people. You know, he doesn't want the bishops in the church bickering with each other continually. Like, you know, so it's just an interesting and nice mixture where he can be underhanded, he can be ruthless, but at the same time, he does kind of, you know, he doesn't want to act like a total tyrant and a, you know, evil dictator all the time. So yeah, it would be very, very easy to go over the edge with that.
Yeah. It was a great story.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, I feel like this week is just a much needed fucking
Oh my
refresher
god,
after
yes.
the
Oh my
last
god.
the last little while we've had. But
Very, very much so. Holy shit, we needed this.
well, I mean, necromancy is a pretty dark pit to dig yourself out of. Like, holy Hannah.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Kingmaker, which, correct me if I'm wrong, this felt longer than normal. Like it
Yes,
seemed like
yes,
the
it was
parts
on.
were longer than half an hour each, and there were four of them.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It's. I think they clocked in around 210 instead of 2 hours flat. So,
Yeah.
but that's okay because I love this audio in all of its retarded glory.
Oh, what? No, this audio is great.
I know it's fantastic,
It's so good.
but it's really, really
Really?
weird.
It's
Really
really
weird.
weird.
It's hilarious, but absolutely bizarre.
I didn't have enough time to rewind it to double check, but they kill Shakespeare at the end, right?
Yes, yes, they do.
I thought so. Which makes me wonder how does the Ghosts of the Globe Theater happen then?
Evidently, that happens to Shakespeare before this.
I guess.
I mean, the Doctor meets Shakespeare lots of times, so I guess this is just the last time.
So
How do
oh
I
my
even
God.
begin to untangle this knot? Because it's very strange.
So the Doctor, Perry, and Aramem land in what's the year?
I don't remember, and I don't care.
In Shakespeare's time, and they're going to see Richard III being performed in like the first month it's being performed.
Yes. And Aramem spoils the ending, or Perry spoils the ending. Yeah,
Which
Perry spoils the ending, and the audience are mad. But yeah, so they go see Richard III, and basically they get to talking about whether Richard, historical accuracy, and whether or not Richard actually killed the princes, his nephews that were in prison in the tower, as a historical mystery, and because the Doctor apparently had a book deal after becoming famous with Unit, he decides that a good subject for an educational book is to go back in time and find out if Richard actually killed the princes in the tower, or if not him, then who did, because he loves a mystery.
Incorrect. Kate.
Oh, pardon me.
Not the subject of the book, the first chapter of a book. There's going
Pardon
the
me.
whole book is about historical mysteries.
Sorry. Yes, the Doctor Who series of books.
Yes.
The Doctor, Who discovers
Yes.
space. Anyway, so they go back in time to
really dumb.
It's really dumb.
It
So they go back in time to Richard III's era, and the Doctor, unfortunately, something's gone wrong with the TARDIS, and the Doctor has landed 2 years after Perry and Aramem have, and from there things get complicated. But basically, through the two parallel timelines, as we follow Perry and Aramem 2 years earlier and sort of catch up to the present, well, quote unquote present, where the Doctor is. Basically, they have an encounter with Richard as he's escorting his nephew to take the throne, and then they find out that the nephew, because they find him in the woods having tried to escape, and he's knocked himself out, and then Perry discovers that he's a robot because his dong falls off, and his metal. That's not a joke. So anyway, because of this, Richard kind of is like, what the hell? And so he declares the previous king's marriage null and void, thereby making the princes bastards and taking the throne himself and putting them in the tower. And then Perry and Aramem work in a tavern for a while before becoming supposedly caretakers for the princes in the tower, but then they're actually supposed to be impersonating the princes because the princes are somewhere else. And basically, it's a whole rigmarole, and the Doctor catches up with all this eventually, and Richard is trying to manipulate him into killing the princes who are actually the companions.
Yeah.
that he can get rid of them without blood on his hands, because Richard apparently, it turns out, has had like time traveling aliens and stuff like bothering him his entire life, telling him to kill the princes in the tower, like since he was a kid, and he's about had enough of it. Because basically, like, he's had this. Oh yeah, that's the other element of this. Like, there's a time traveling advisor that has appeared to Richard, advising him about all this stuff called Mr. Satan. He's
Yeah.
not Hercule.
No, I could not stop. Anytime someone said Mr. Satan, I would hear Mr. Satan from Dragon Ball Z, specifically the English dub.
Well, of course.
The goofy Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan mashup voice. That's what it is. It is a blend of both of their voices, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, so Mr. Satan is dressed all in black and has a pointy little beard, so everyone assumes it's the Master. But it turns out it's actually Shakespeare who has come. He stowed away in the TARDIS because the Doctor was drunk, and has come back to make sure that Richard kills the nephews in the tower, so his play will be historically accurate. And the princes are actually living with Richard's brother, who was supposed to be killed but actually wasn't, and it turns out that the princes were actually the princesses, and they're not robots, but were just wearing fake dong cod pieces and are now working as serving wenches in the pub. And then basically through a turn of events, Richard III takes Shakespeare's place as a playwright in Elizabethan times, and Shakespeare takes Richard's place at the Battle of Bosworth and dies up a tree screaming like a sissy.
Yeah.
And if that sounded like a mess, it's
we did mention. Did we mention the robot?
There isn't a robot.
There is a robot. Don't you remember that's how the story starts?
There's the publishing robot. Yeah,
so
apparently
the whole reason the book is brought up is because this robot shows up with a giant laser cannon that says the Doctor has to reach his deadline, because apparently in the future all book rights forever are consolidated into one company with time traveling robots.
Like goddamn Cuthbert again.
That send them back to Force writers to finish their works and meet their deadline.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a robot too, and
this is a very funny story, but is also incredibly dark for no reason at times.
It's so weird. It's so weird. It's like, and I mean, we're talking about like medieval Europe, but this isn't like, it's not like, you know, prestigiously accurate medieval Europe. This is not a historical setting in the vein of the Council of Nicaea. This is like Castle of Fear, Monty Python stuff. It's bizarre. My favorite scene in particular is Mr. Satan acting as Richard's PR guy, holding a press conference with neighborhood gossips and taking questions, like the White House press secretary.
Yes, not to mention, I mean, this story ends with Richard being, quote unquote, Richard being killed, but it's or being left. Wait, I'm trying to. How do they take? Because Richard has to fill in for Shakespeare.
Yes,
back in the 1500s.
Right. Because Shakespeare stole some alien tech out of the TARDIS and was like trying to force everyone to take them back or whatever, and
he wanted to take Richard back to pay for his crimes.
Yes, he did.
For soiling the name of the monarchy.
Yes, that's right. So Shakespeare was upset that he found out that people would eventually come to doubt Richard's culpability and would start to blame the Tudors. And well, Shakespeare, as a staunch lover of the Queen, is not gonna fucking put up with that. So basically, he wanted to like make sure without a doubt it was Richard.
Yeah,
and also the publishing robot comes for him as well, so it turns into a madcap chase in which he kind of ends up a tree screaming and like a sissy.
Yes.
So Doctor Who.
Also, it turns out that Shakespeare's two daughters are actually the princesses that have gone forward
because they brought them.
Yeah. Yes.
Richard.
and
That's right.
it's very also the voice performance on Richard III is amazing.
Oh,
'Cause he's
perfect.
just so like he just drones. There's no emotion in his voice ever. It's
No,
just
but
a very flat. Okay,
it's
doctor, what are we going to do? but
it's
there's
the
it's
most
better than that,
cynical,
obviously.
awful
Yes.
thing in the.
It's
It
so
was a
great.
lovely northern accent, just a very deadpan and very cynical delivery, which was a lot of fun.
It's so good.
And it's clever too, because basically, like, Richard knows by now who the doctor is. Richard knows that the doctor has to preserve history, and basically uses that as leverage, where it's like, look, I'm not going to kill the nephews in the tower, but you know that they die, so you have to do it to keep history on track. Like, whether you want to or not, this is your problem.
But then they figured out a better way.
Well, sure, but I just thought that was such a neat idea, that like a historical figure would kind of use that against him.
Also,
After all the discussion that we had in Nicaea about keeping history on the right track and whatever, and here we have it kind of being
we
turned
have a
around on
very
us.
modern Who ending here.
Do we?
Yeah, I would say like New Who.
Okay.
Just where it gets goofier, it's sillier, it's not a bad thing.
No, well, I mean, the whole thing is silly, but
No, it's so good. But again, weirdly dark, because then there's a character we haven't mentioned who I loved is Clary, uh, the bar owner, the owner
who
of
is
the
actually Richard's brother.
yes,
Yes.
the owner of the dirtiest pub in London.
That's right.
I can't
Don't
tell
you
what.
forget it.
I think this water is so dirty it's making the floor filthier instead of cleaning it.
Yeah, this story also features the phrase "knee deep in faggots." So
Yes.
the only thing that struck out to me as odd in this is that Aramem is very much, maybe she's learned her lesson, maybe she's learned a bit too well. Perry is saying that, oh, we're here with the princes, maybe we can save them now. And Aramem's like, we can't do that, Perry. We have to preserve history. And it's like, oh, really?
Well, and then, but then, because another example of how weirdly dark it is at times, Clary dies. He drowns.
Yes, he does. He runs into the water at Trader's Gate and drowns in the Thames.
But that he died the way he would have wanted to, according to his nieces.
Yeah, there you go. The other dark moment in this, I thought, was Aramem when they're in the tower, and she should suggest that because they're the princes, for all intents and purposes, they should kill themselves with poison to keep history on the right track. And then Perry is absolutely horrified by this. She plays it off as a joke, and later to the doctor, she's like, I kind of lied to Perry. Is that okay? He's like, sure.
Not the part where Richard's torturing his right hand man, because that was pretty dark too.
Yeah, but that was fun.
Also, we didn't mention the really stupid but funny running joke where anytime anyone talks around Richard, he takes it as them insulting him.
Oh yeah, with his crooked back and withered hands and yeah. Oversensitive.
Yes.
We also get a couple of alternate Doctor cameos. We have we have a fourth Doctor cameo from somebody who's not Tom Baker.
But, really?
Yeah,
it's a good impression.
It is a good impression, but this is before Tom had signed with Big Finish, so it's John Culshaw doing an impression, and we also have a Ninth Doctor reference as well.
Yes,
because when Perry and Aramem and the Doctor are communicating with each other across the 2 years, basically the Doctor keeps like sending them notes back in time, and then the barman's like, "Oh, they left another note for you."
Yes.
One of them is apparently dropped off by a northern guy in a leather jacket with big ears. I don't know who that could be, but I'm sure it would be fantastic. So yeah, I don't know. This is just it's a weird duck because like it's extremely funny, but it still has time for actually like a pretty smart plot
and a really intricate one too. And it was really
really intricate one too. A lot of fun character beats and just I don't know. It's also good because
it is it's good. It's good. Very good.
I would say that out of anything we've talked about over the last few weeks, go out and buy this one.
This is my favorite.
It's $3. Go buy this.
It's so fucking good. Anyway, and speaking of other Doctor references, next up we have, and last up we have The Gathering, which actually, this is a kind of a weird one because it's an unfolding mystery basically.
Yes.
And it opens with a lot of like it basically seems like someone's flipping through TV channels, but through time.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of which are references to just different Doctor Who stories and audios.
One of which being the crash of the rigid airship R101.
Yeah, with Charlie.
Right? Yes, with Charlie from the Eighth Doctor, which I noticed, and I messaged you, and I was like, "Hey, that was a reference, right?" And you were like, "Yes, it is."
Yep, it's a reference. Lots of other ones too, but
yes.
Yeah, this. I will come clean and admit that we are missing a little bit of context here because we're going with Doctor order and not release order. This story follows on from The Reaping, which is a Sixth Doctor audio. The backstory that took place in that audio was all explained in this one when Catherine is talking to the waiter, but details.
Yes.
But that's not the point. You can get along without it, but you will be scratching your head until things are explained. But I mean, really, this whole thing is structured in such a way that it withholds information from you on purpose, especially the first part. And actually, and additionally, this is structured weirdly because there are 2 hour-long parts instead of 4 half hours. I don't know why they chose to do that. I don't really care. It's the same length, but that's what they did for some reason.
Yeah, there's never really a reason for that either.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really justify itself being like that. Which is fine.
But again, it's the same running time as a 4-parter, so I don't it doesn't have to justify anything. It's just a slight difference in format.
So what happened in this story, Kate? The Doctor lands in slight future. Slight future.
Okay, this is going to take some explaining. So
yes, which is why you're doing it.
So we open with Catherine, who's a doctor. She's outside of a private party at a bar. She's talking to the waiter about all these horrible things that have happened to her in the previous audio. Basically, the Cliff's Notes of this is that it was a Cyberman story with the Sixth Doctor and Perry, and things did not go well for her. That story was set in the 80s. Now this is 2006, so 20 years ago for her. Basically, what happened is that her dad died, and he was cyber converted. He attacked her brother. Her brother was injured horribly, and she says that he had died. Later, we learned that he didn't. But basically, her and her friend James Clark fled to Brisbane in Australia, and as luck would have it, it's Tegan's 46th birthday in Brisbane, Australia, as well, and she's going to be going out to the bar with her pals. Meanwhile, the Doctor has traveled. He has left Perry and Aramem in Monte Carlo. That'll be covered in an audio called The Veiled Leopard later. It also features Hex and Ace from the Seventh Doctor audios, so I've left it off for now. But anyway, so they're busy. And the Doctor's gone to a place called the Goggle Box, which has just opened. It's inside the hollowed out fucking Earth Moon. And it's basically like this giant historical repository of like every media file ever. And so the guy that works there is like a huge Doctor super fan. He's like drilling him about all these questions about like, UNIT and the London fire and all this, that, and the other thing. And then he's like, oh, what's all this? And it's like, so there's this weird pattern of energy spikes throughout history. And one of them is 84. And so the Doctor is like, I'll go investigate that. But then he tunes into the 84 one, which is from the other audio. So he's like, oh, that's already been done. I'll fucking steer clear of that because I'm already there. So he goes to Brisbane instead, which is like the next energy spike. And yeah, meanwhile, so episode 1 is basically sort of all these fragmented little scenes about kind of setting up the story as Catherine is like telling the waiter about what's led up to this point. It's about Tegan, Catherine, her Catherine's receptionist Eve. And James Clark, who's now working as an IT guy. It's Tegan's estranged lover Michael, some slut from the office named Jody, and it's basically just kind of how they've all converged on the bar for Tegan's birthday party.
Yes.
And so after that, Tegan is kind of not. Basically, the doctor has like detected that the alien, whatchamacallit, energy, whatever, is coming from Catherine's medical practice. He's like basically following her around, trying to like ask her questions and like figure out what's going on and stuff. So he kind of like comes with her to the bar, meets up with everybody. Tegan's like, what the fuck? What are you doing here, dickhead? Because she's Tegan and we love her. But and then it turns out basically that James Clark is with he's a bad boy. He is working with a mysterious cabal of people who find alien technology and then basically repurpose it. And what they've actually done is used remaining cyber technology mishmashed with Gallifreyan technology to partially convert Catherine's brother and keep him alive. And they want to basically use this technology to they need an intelligent brain to integrate into their computer, which they call system, to basically make the technology work, fully cure the brother, and then they want to like do this to the world because, you know, it's Doctor Who. So the Doctor's not really pleased with that. Also, it turns out that Tegan has developed a brain tumor, an alien one. So that's not good. So what happens is that Michael kind of like goes Skynet, because as his work as an IT guy, he's been like planting viruses in various telecommunication system and like takes out all the like internet and phones in the city. And so he kidnaps Tegan and Eve, and he goes with Catherine back to the clinic. They mulchify Eve so that she becomes like linked with the system. They were going to use Tegan basically as a guinea pig because her tumor is alien, to see if the technology could cope with things that current medical science could not. But they decided to try and link the Doctor up to it because he's so much cooler, I guess. And then he kind of sort of just talks it into not destroying him. And then they convince partially cyber converted brother to blow himself up and destroy all of the things. And everybody gets away except for the office slut who died trying to turn off the security cameras. And yeah, it's another complicated one that it almost in a way it reminded me of Creatures of Beauty, where it kind of like you don't know, even if you've heard the previous Sixth Doctor audio, like you don't really know what's happening until all the pieces in the jigsaw kind of fit together over time, and then you start to get a clearer picture of what's actually happening. So my explanation is long, it's rambling, and it's probably very boring, but I promise it's much better than it sounds.
Yes.
So what did you think of The Gathering, David? I thought you'd be excited to see Tegan.
I was very excited to see Tegan. I liked it. It was out of the three, it was, I thought, the weaker one, but it was still very good.
Agreed.
There were just, I mean, there were a lot of, it felt like there were a lot of moving parts that weren't really necessary, but they still came together for a very entertaining story.
Yes. I mean,
I feel like we've seen
I
this
agree.
story before, except Tegan was here, which was awesome.
Tegan was here, and
I liked the repository in the moon with the weird Doctor Who fan.
Played by Nick Briggs.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Fun.
So, yeah, I mean, it's the way that it's structured is definitely, like I said earlier, it's basically based on withholding information from you. I mean, there's like with Creatures of Beauty, actually, we sort of segue between scenes, sort of like by listening to, the last few words of the previous scene on the intercom, or just like transitioning from different conversations. And everything's kind of all linked up and in a weird way. Part 2 is much more straightforward because all of the characters have come together by then, and it becomes more of a straightforward Doctor Who story about the evil guy abusing alien technology he's not ready for, and da 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 da. But really, I mean, to me, the highlight of this is just kind of checking up on what happened to Tegan since we saw her. I mean, for her, it's been 22 years.
Yeah.
So
I miss Tegan already.
yeah, it's kind of, in a way, it's sad what's happened to her, but at the same time, I don't know, it's bittersweet. I like that she, basically, like, Tegan doesn't have a lot of friends. She has people from work. She has a guy that she was seeing and broke it off with. She has her doctor, I guess, that she gets along really well with. Well, probably not so much anymore since, they tried to cyberize her and blow her up and all that. But,
yeah.
she works at her father's animal feed company. And when the doctor hears about this, he's kind of like disappointed. But at the same time, like, towards the end, Tegan explains to him, like, traveling with you, it's not that I didn't do anything with my life. It's just that, she's come to appreciate normalcy. She's come to appreciate stability. She takes pleasure in the mundane. And I think that's pretty sweet. I think that kind of fits with my own outlook on life, which is pretty unambitious, to be honest. But it's also sad because the doctor's like, come with me, we'll see if we can get you treatment somewhere. And she's like, kind of just accepting that she doesn't have long left and wants to spend it at home.
Yeah. It's good. It's a nice story. And it's really nice to see Tegan again in this.
I just wish that she was in better situation, but
I know, but I love too where the doctor's trying to explain to her what's going on, and she's like, "No, I don't want to know. Please don't tell me."
Yep. She clued in pretty quick. She's like, "You're not here for my birthday party." Like,
it's great.
Yeah, she's become as mouthy as ever.
Yes, because this is never changed.
Well, but because this is Big Finish, they let her off the hook a bit, so she can call people a bitch and stuff like that. Yeah, when this came out, I mean, this was Janet Fielding's first audio story.
Oh, really?
Yes. And when this came out, her stipulation for doing this was that it was a one-off deal, and this would be kind of the swan song for Tegan, and this was going to be it. And I mean, chronologically, so far as I know, this is still, the last we see of Tegan, at least in the order of her life. And but yeah, that was the big promotion about it. It was like, oh, this is, a special one-time appearance by Tegan. And I like what they did with it. I like that they didn't just make another Tegan story, with Turlo and Nyssa or whatever. They didn't. They really did try to do something special with the opportunity, and to the point where they even got rid of Perry and Aramem temporarily so that we could have total focus on her. And I thought that was an interesting way to do it. Of course, Janet had fun doing it, and she liked working with Peter Davison again. And come the next decade, we have a very, very long run of audios with her and Turlo and Nyssa. But yeah, at the time, like, for all we knew, this was it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was it. I'm just happy to have more Tegan.
For sure. I'm not sure what the fan reaction would have been to her having the tumor and probably not having a lot of time left. But I mean, fans are touchy about that kind of thing. When they revisit a character, they want it to be, a happy occasion and not something horrible. But yeah. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting direction. I thought they didn't make it too sad. They didn't make it too sappy. Tegan was true to herself and makes a choice that I think is understandable given who she is.
Yep.
And you definitely don't need Perry and Aramem in there.
No.
Although I don't know.
I don't know. I really like that bit in when he sees the nerd, the Nick Briggs nerd, and he's like, "Wait a minute, the Fifth Doctor never traveled by himself. What are you doing?"
Yeah, because I knew the big Finnish fans would be like, "Excuse me." I think this was the first time they ever had Peter Davison by himself. So I think they wanted to try and justify it to the fans. Yeah, they knew damn well that people would be like, just if they didn't say something, people would be trying to figure it out for the next 3 months on forum threads. But oh man, yes. So I guess that's pretty much it.
That is pretty much it.
That's all our stories today. No more stories. Hopefully there will be easier ones next week to summarize. because yeah, both Kingmaker and Gathering are just like, it's fine when you're listening to them. I swear to God, it's fine when you're listening to them. But fuck me, it's hard to put into linear words. But all of them were good this week, Dave. All of them.
All of
except
them were
for
good.
Sutekh.
You were wrong about that. All of them were good.
Kingmaker was my favorite, and I had remembered Kingmaker dimly from years ago. I remember liking it a lot, and I still like it a lot. I have to say, Nicaea has grown on me. It's not one that I really remembered strongly, or I don't even know if I have heard it before. I must have, because I got to as far as Kingmaker, but anyway, those are both really strong. The Gathering a little bit less so, partly because I think it's just it has a lot of structural oddities that it doesn't necessarily need, but it's still enjoyable. So
yeah. So what's up for next week?
Well, next week, because we finished the Fourth Doctor season 7.5 box set, we have to catch up on another box set that came out over our very long break during the summer. So we are tackling the season 12 Companion Chronicles box set, which was released in June, and it's the Second Doctor Volume 2. So we will have the first of the 4 stories in that box set with the Curator's Egg.
Okay.
All right. Egg. We have another good round of Fifth Doctor audios this week. I was going to say month because I'm a retard, but anyway, we have another trio. We have Son of the Dragon, we have The Mind's Eye, and we have The Bride of Peladon.
Ooh, Peladon.
I thought you'd say that.
I like Peladon. I hope it's good.
You'll have to listen and find out, as will you, faithful viewers.
All right.
Oh ho ho.
So, yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back next time with that. Bye.